CMMS Radio talks about all things CMMS, computerized maintenance management software, focused on maintenance management. It's the people, the process, and the culture that make your CMMS journey a success. There he is, folks. It's Andy Gager. He's a friend. He's a real deal pro. He's with AMG International. Andy, welcome back to CMMS Radio.
Oh, Greg, it's always a pleasure to join you, buddy.
Yeah, that's and what we're catching up today because we got Streamline Conferences coming up.
We do.
The 9th through 12th in Greenville. We happen to be recording on Red Friday. That's Red for Remember Everyone Deployed. Support your military around the world. If you don't, hey, whatever. So I can't wait to see you at Streamline. But what I want to get into today is what you're presenting on. You're doing both a presentation and you also have a workshop. And so I'm not going by memory. I'm just moving to a different screen here. So you've got the leadership and supervision workshop from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. on day one on February 9th. What can you tell me about that without giving away all the goods?
You know, with all the training programs that I do, with all the training sessions that we do here, this is probably the number one training that we do, right, is the supervision leadership. A lot of us, including me, by the way, we were promoted to a supervisor's position without any training, without anything. It's like, okay, Friday afternoon, you're a coworker. Monday, you're now the supervisor of the department. And now you have to manage these people that on Friday you're coworkers with. Now you need to supervise them. And that's a very difficult position to put somebody in unless they've received, a little bit of formal training on how do you deal with it? How do you break that coworker friendship relationship to more friendly and how do you motivate those people and how do you delegate that work accordingly? So that's what this session is going to be talking about. So it's one of my favorite ones, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I think I've seen some different parts of it. These topics come up a lot whenever we're on recording, or even frankly when we're not recording, where we're talking about that, because that's kind of like the central fabric aside from the teams themselves and how they move in asset management, maintenance management, facilities management, all of it, right? Mm-hmm. Reliability. But that leadership and supervision component, when done right, when you see it in action done right, the stories that come out of that are brilliant because that's when you start to see better outcomes. It's a critical component of the outcomes we're really seeking, right?
Well, it just elevates all teams. And then one of the things that I really try to stress is it's very difficult to motivate a team. So you need to get down more granular and more micro and get down to what motivates the individuals. Because if you can motivate the individuals, again, the synergy then would be a motivated team or group or department.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's going to be a full-blown workshop. And then on the 11th, a couple days later, and I know you'll be doing a lot of stuff at conference aside from helping people and talking to them and all the side conversations, but there's a few other things. I'm going to try to sneak you onto one of my panel discussions. But February 11th, you've got true cost of maintenance, what management doesn't see. So these are actually closely related, but slight difference, whereas that's a session, so it comes in a smaller dose from a very specific perspective of what you've done in the workshop, right?
There's similarities, but yes, there's differences. So in my experience, and this has been proven over and over and over again, that the worldwide, by the way, the worldwide utilization of a maintenance technician is somewhere between 17 and 24%. And I'm certainly not suggesting that we have poor maintenance technicians. What I am saying is the system that allows that to happen, that's what's broken. And so if we start chipping away at all those things, right, in an 8-hour day or 9 or 10, whatever the hours are, working hours, what are the things that are chipping away at that? We have 24 to 26% on average travel time to and from the jobs. Okay, we have also on average 18% of a technician's time is looking for parts or materials. So that's almost 50% of their time walking to and from the job site because they don't have the tools or whatever the case, or the materials or whatever the case may be, and then looking for those parts or those tools. And now let's just compound that or domino that with, okay, we now have a morning break, we now have lunch breaks, we now have afternoon breaks, we have restroom breaks, right? That all chips away at that. So when I talk about, what is your current utilization of your maintenance crew, I will hear clients say, "Oh, we're 90%." I'm like, okay. I'm sort of going to throw the BS flag on that one, right? On saying that's virtually impossible. Now, world class. Now, some refer to world class as 65% utilization, which I tend to agree with. But what are the systems? What are the processes that we have in place that are preventing these individuals from achieving those world class levels? That's that's what this session is going to dive into, is how do we correct that? Where are the performance gaps? Where are the barriers that are preventing our maintenance technicians from achieving that, or aspiring, maybe I should say that, to that world-class level?
Yeah. Well, right there where you're talking about achieving or aspiring, I always think about this idea of what is the strive. So we have our goals, we have our marks that we have to hit, we have our metrics, but the strive is that kind of component where people are really focused in on kind of a similar attitude, and they're willing to chase things that are not that easy to attain. The strive, let's keep going, let's be better and better. What do you think is the most common barrier when it comes to, I'm going to try to put this all together, I'm just taking a shot here, the leadership side and the team side, to that really happening, to the teams all moving in the same way, top to bottom? Real hard, right?
Okay. So you just bundled together a really big nut to crack. Okay. It's very easy for us to blame leadership. Now, I've been on both sides of the fence, right? I've been on both sides of the wall. I grew up as a shop floor rat in manufacturing, and I've also been in the leadership roles and plant manager roles and things like that. So I could see, and by the way, operations and maintenance. So I can see through these different glasses of operations, maintenance, engineering, and things like that. So, oh boy. So how do you answer that one? I'm not going to put the blame necessarily on, well, all right.
Well, how about leadership rather than blame?
No. Let me answer this. Right, wrong, or indifferent, operations rules the roost, because they're the money makers, right? The perception is they're the money makers. Now, I can make the argument on both sides of the fence. On the operation side, yes, you produce product or you produce a service or whatever the case may be, and that generates revenues. I get that. On the maintenance side and the reliability side, I can understand, look, if your equipment is not running and performing the way it is, then you're not producing any money and blah, blah, blah. So I get that. So strong leadership is going to meld those two organizations together to say, okay, production, we understand we have to meet our obligations to our customers. But on the flip side of that, look, maintenance, you need to maintain those money-making machines. So there's enough blame, I guess, across the board. Nobody's going to achieve world class unless we get in a circle and hold hands and sing Kumbaya and say, look, boys and girls, we're in this thing together. So let's work this stuff out.
Yeah. not rocket science, but it's a kind of constant thing you have to work on and maintain, right?
Well, yeah. So let me add one more other thing in there. I have never worked with a sales department that over promises to their clients that we can, or customers, that we can do that. Years and years ago, there was a commercial, I think by FedEx or somebody, or I think it was a Saturday Night Live, to be honest with you. Maybe it was a FedEx commercial. They're like, yes, yes, we can do that. We can do that. We can do that. And then once the camera goes off, they're like, how are we going to do that? So that's the reality of the world. Is I got one group, they're like, we could do anything you want. We could turn water into wine. We could do that by tomorrow. And then you have the facility that are like, how are we going to do that?
Yeah, yeah. Why didn't you check with us? Why didn't you ask somebody? It's
exactly.
Like, I'm getting the deal.
That's right. I got the sale.
Well, first of all, with Streamline Conferences coming up, I'm so excited that you're going to be there.
Along with a bunch of other industry experts. So I am really pumped for this conference.
Yeah, this is going to be good stuff. I can't wait to see you there along with all of our friends. And I want to close out with one kind of question around CMMS.
Okay.
And so with what you're presenting and the workshop and the things you've seen and done, and you've been on CMMS radio, and we have all these cool conversations, the CMMS itself, I have this idea in my head, and I put something out about it earlier, that your CMMS will not fix your culture.
No.
Or a poor culture. It will help you identify it, though. What do you think?
Okay. Again, interesting question, right? So when you talk about culture with the new CMMS system, there's going to be resistors because they're like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not used to this screen. Okay. So, how do we do this? And I see this particularly when we're talking about some of the more popular CMMS. I won't mention them, but I'll mention this. I will say some of the more popular CMMS systems, they're very rigid. They're somewhat complicated. It takes a little bit of time to get used to it. And I've also preached this forever and ever and ever. I've never seen a CMMS system make an organization reliable. It's a tool that will help you become reliable, but that's predicated on the fact that you're actually putting quality data of a high level of integrity into the system to feed back to you the information that you need to make your organization more reliable. So, a lot of these organizations, they believe, because they spent a ton of money investing in these CMMS systems, if you sit in a classroom for 2 or 3 or 4 hours and walk through a bunch of different sessions, you are now subject matter experts on that system. And then once they go live, because the pressure is to go live, the day we go live, everybody's struggling. They're like, you know what? I don't know this. I don't know how to work it. I didn't, right? They weren't trained properly on how to use the tool. So therefore, what they do is they go back to the way it always has been, or they do workarounds with Excel spreadsheets or these other things, right? And that's when organizations say that the implementation was very poor, or people will say the CMMS system doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah. And I think that gets into the kind of idea behind the question, where I'm thinking about, it's only a tool, the CMMS. Does it add value? Yes, but only if this, that, and the other thing are happening. People are consistent. There's standardization. And when you don't see that, when you have your new or existing CMMS, that's giving you a clue that you have work to do when it comes to the team themselves and not the software itself, because they're not fully bought in. There's some other problem. So with that, because that's a big conversation we can have every day of the week for the rest of the year.
let me just piggyback on one more point about that. Okay.
Sure.
Too many organizations that we work with right now, the pressure is to go live. So what they do is, and you and I have talked about this, have you cleaned up the data before you migrated the legacy information over to the new system? Okay. And I'm going to say 99% of the time, maybe that's a little high, but pretty close. The response is, no, we have to go live. But once we go live, we'll go back and clean up the data. And the results of that is very few people or organizations go back and clean up the data after they go live. And then that's when they start running into these issues to say the system doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen it. We're going to keep seeing it. And the ones that dig in right there and find that opportunity to say, wait a minute, that's not actually the case. Let's do this work. They're going to be in a better spot. So for everybody that's heading to Streamline and any of you that are not, if you go to sign up, if you go to streamlineconferences.com and you sign up, use the code GC_guest, all caps. You get a discount to attend. The room block at the hotel is about to close down, but there's ways around that. You're going to see this man, Andy Gager, there. He's doing the workshop on day one. A couple days later, he's doing an awesome session, and he'll be around the whole time so you can have conversations with him. You can ask him anything about asset management, maintenance management, leadership, all that stuff. Andy Gager, AMG International. Thank you, brother, for being on CMMS Radio, and we'll see you at Streamline Conferences in Greenville, South Carolina.
Always appreciate it, Greg, and I am so looking forward to this one.
Did you find this episode helpful? Please send us some feedback, suggest a topic, or ask a question. Reach out to CMMS Radio if you need a co-pilot on your CMMS project. Visit cmmsradio.com and use the What's on Your Mind link. Thank you for tuning in to CMMS Radio, your resource for all things CMMS, from selection to implementation, to help you make better choices, learn from industry experts, and have a successful CMMS journey.